Namaste, vibrating the highest frequency of love and light. Blessed we be to be born, to live, to die, thereby exist. Exist there we be while experiencing simultaneously that reciprocated cycle of a sacred trilogy seeded by the stardust and the cosmic debris. Here I be, transmission from High Cali. Peace, love, and cheers. I wanted to make a video about the innate body in correspondence to spoken word, and in correspondence to linguistics with the English language and the spelling that curtails with that English language. Now, to simplify, because it's so easy talking about this stuff to digress way too far. Working on it is to say that the innate body, something that Eckhart Tolle has written about, is basically a definition of what is the innate body. It's the body intellect. It's the intelligence that keeps your heart beating and you breathing subconsciously. Your subconscious is as much part of the innate body intellect as external reality. As so doth within, so without. It is very much so the bridge between us as individuals and the reality that source originates from. Source, God, higher self, cosmic consciousness. There's a book on my book list I want to achieve, The Living Matrix, because quantum physics has showed their ether, what would be described as the ether, has been proven. That is to say, all is alive, all is relative, and there is a intellect of an interdependent abundance. When we know this, or rather remember such, this is why I'm highly critical of the term New Age, because it implies hubris of knowing more than we didn't know before. And in a world or empire that is this, social, economic, international turmoil we live in, the collapsing of a wreckage the collapsing of a paradigm and wreckage, it plays out in it's synchronized, and it's in perfect timing at the same time of quantum physics bringing about what is, as Terence McKenna would say, nothing new age about it. It's the revival of the archaic. Raw videos. So what does this mean? In correspondence of our conscious, the relationship between conscious and subconscious. The conscious mind is that of the ego in many respects. We identify with what we do, right? We identify with our personalities. And it's subconsciously driven. It can't be turned off. The subconscious being a layer under the conscious. Now, one beautiful mechanism that one conscious tool that really inherently separates, or there being a distinguishable difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, is linear thought. Linear thought has a past. Linear thought has a future. The conscious mind alone, as in a TED Talk, a professor, one reason I know I'll end up being a professor or a teacher, to challenge the education system, because this professor was doing such in a TED Talk where he said, we are too much in our heads, too much in our conscious mind, and not recognizing the conscious intellect beyond. I would like to serendipitously just indulging in this digression to bring up the Hermetic principle, the very first one, all is mental. One would assume, well, yes, if all is mental, what has Western world done wrong? We have been up with the mentality here, the mentality. All is mental means every single thing around us, all life and all reality is intelligent. This is where the revival of the archaic kicks into play, and where the socially engineered implications of divide and conquer lead to a community of stigmatizing or saying new age escapism. It was one of those things that I was indulging because of the anger I felt, people assuming I was homeless when I'm not, walking around Chico, my hometown, with a backpack around. Because, funny enough, there's a lot of highlighting open bruises of the growing escalation of homelessness in Butte County. I digress too much. I don't know why I brought up that whole being in Chico, but a good example of that in application to all being mental is that I was feeling that way mentally because of the collective trauma that's in play right now in my community. And it could be said, and I use this as anything that I usually see externally in my reality, most things at this point, it's growing to more. Because of empathic abilities coming back online to the conscious horizon. Most of the things I see in reality verify my intuitive premonitions, such as the premonition of like, okay, if we're going through the mourning process as a community, we're probably in that of anger and such, right? And that mourning process and all of that, all of these things that I'm using as an example, and because I digressed there, and I'm going to digress myself back to the main point, all of those things are evidence of the ether, evidence of everything being all relative and interdependent, right? A healthy culture requires a counterculture because there has to be a healthy equilibrium between, say, liberal and conservative. Conservative is great at managerial, maintaining a status quo to help keep social order, but that order must reconcile with the beautiful, flourishing fact, just as science has to when they're shifting from one paradigm of thought to another. They have to reconcile with the fact that, as Terence McKenna would say, order is but a bastard child of chaos. Therefore, the order that is culture, the order that is our society, always has to progress. It has to reflect the infinite abundance of change that we all habitat. Blessed Fibonacci spiral sequence in sacred geometry, because the spiral goes forever and it's resembled in mostly everything from one perspective or another in Mother Earth and even in our biology. I don't, these videos. Okay, case in point, I'll just say this to get back on topic. The reason society, we all know that feeling of, darn it, it's the same crap but different day, right? Well, we feel that way many ways because of the subconscious. That is quantum. What does quantum mean? Present. The main distinguishable difference between the consciousness and subconscious is simple. Consciousness sees and depictates this sense of past and future, which is very important. It's part of the mechanism of consciousness as we embody this human experience, being consciousness, cosmic consciousness, if you will. So, as in correspondence to subconscious, as in correspondence to language. And the distinguishable difference between written word and spoken word, particularly with English and spelling, and spells being cast while people are convinced and being programmed by the television, telling an externalized vision that is not inherently your own. That is programming of your subconscious. That is programming of our external reality. It's part of the mental enslavement that we must and inherently always do. It is destiny to emancipate ourselves from, because it is the whole point of this human experience to reawaken to the inner knowing of our own sentient birthrights. I'll just leave it with that. Eckhart Tolle talked about the innate body and how the innate body was subconsciously driven. The innate body was the way that trauma is communicated. Trauma takes a form where it impairs the subconscious. It is absorbed by the subconscious. I will use this tangible example that you can see right in front of yourself. Say, and of course, there's had to been someone, if it's been thought of in the human condition, it's probably been definitely played out. Say someone is traumatized by snow. They're traumatized by snow because they almost died by a blizzard. Then all of a sudden, they may derive what is known as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, why do they have PTSD? Simply because if they ever see snow, such as if they were to be here where I am filming this video, their body would be back to the trauma of that day when they were in there. It's not that the body is fantasizing this. That's what the mind, the conscious mind alone would say or assume. No. Your body literally goes back in time in perception to the conscious mind, because the actuality of reality is that the only thing that truly exists always is the present. And there lies the evolution of human consciousness coming through the merging of the conscious and subconscious. Having said that, the distinguishable difference between spoken word and written word is, in written word, there's a concrete one definition. There's a lot of words, such as morning being a great example, as I wrote in my journal, where you have two definitions. When it's written, it's concrete as one dimension. When you're speaking this word, your spoken word comes from that subconscious body intellect. So though your conscious mind's deciphering which definition you're using in the context of what you're speaking, your subconscious mind does not. Hence, good morning is like saying, and with a smile, is like saying the morning of death, or having a fear of death and mourning it, in smiling about it, you know. Not because we consciously think that at all. Of course not. That's why I always subconsciously still say good morning when I try to say happy rising instead. I'm out of time. Peace, love, and cheers. Snow.